Hello everyone, this is Saad from Saad's YouTube channel, and today I wanted to talk about and do a long-term review of my long-term baby, the Nikon Z7. Nikon Z, whatever you want to call it, depending on what part of the world you belong to. I have had this camera since the time of its launch back in 2018, and what a phenomenal journey and experience it has been. Of course, it has come with its own cons, I would say. There are great points about it, certain disadvantages as well. It was the first mirrorless camera along with the Z or Z6 as well when it came out back in 2018. Z6 was more geared towards videographers, whereas the Z7 was more about photography and landscape photography, portrait photography, whatever you want to call it. If I just to dive into it, there have been some amazing experiences. To begin with, the image quality to date, I get praises on the image quality. People, after looking at the images, always tend to ask what gear am I using, or what camera system I'm into, or what camera is it. So I don't shy away from showing the camera, its pros. It's an amazing camera. It's 6 years going strong, nothing wrong with the camera. Not even a single problem that I encountered in terms of the software or any physical damage, none so ever. There were, of course, challenges that were more like limitations of the system inherently into the mirrorless as Nikon ventured out into the mirrorless world. But to talk about the positive side of the system, the brand, the camera itself, the ergonomic design. I remember the first time I went into the store to actually compare it to the D850. I was using a crop sensor camera back then, Nikon D7100, and I wanted to upgrade into a D850. I went into the store. I remember holding up the D850 and I just found it too heavy. And back then I was still learning. I am learning today, but there was a huge learning curve at that point. And after trying the D850, when I held the Nikon mirrorless Z7 for the first time, I just fell in love with the weight distribution, the size. It just felt very nice, perfect in the hands. People always complain about the pinky not going on its place, a little short. Never a deal breaker, not a major problem at all. I've actually enjoyed it. I've used this camera in extreme conditions. Living in Canada, living near the mountains where the temperature drops to 40, 50 Celsius negative. I went out during those cold periods and I've used this camera, no problem. So ergonomically, the design, the weight distribution, either you attach a prime lens or a huge lens, it just fits well. Image stabilization has been good. The dynamic range and the color rendition, just to date, I totally love it about the camera. The color rendition, even the JPEGs that come out of the picture, right out of the camera, they're very, very good. And raw files, Nikon is already known to produce one of the best raw files with enough data to bring up the shadows and everything else along with it. Enjoy working with the camera. some of the other features that I want to talk about: high ISO. So using the camera at high ISO in low light conditions, I've used it over 6,000, 10,000, 12,000. There have been conditions where I needed to bump up to that ISO level and the pictures still come out perfect, especially if you're just using the pictures for social media. They work just well, they work just fine. You won't find as many grains as compared to some of the other cameras. So the first time when I moved into the camera system, there were a couple of things that I considered. One was the electronic viewfinder. Back then, with the DSLRs, that was a big deal, electronic viewfinder. So especially if you're shooting at nighttime, having a brighter LCD, that was a strong point. But the major factor that I considered a mirrorless over a DSLR, when also considering a factor that learning was a big deal. With a mirrorless camera, when you're making the changes, changing the aperture priority, or changing the aperture or shutter speed or ISO, you could actually see the picture change in the LCD or the EVF, and that helps with your learning journey towards becoming a better photographer, and that was very important to me. So that was one of the major reasons that I actually jumped into the mirrorless world, and I'm so glad that I did. The top LCD, amazing, very helpful, winter conditions, or the screen was and has been always very bright, clear to see. The weather sealing has been amazing on it. As I've already told you, I've used it in extreme cold conditions. The camera kept on going. The battery gets affected, but you're fine. The battery of a mirrorless camera with Nikon, I would say they're not their strong point. The DSLRs would still hold their fort in terms of the battery, but you get used to it. You have to plan for it. You know that there are about 500 to 600 shots on average, and that's using the EVF and the screen at the back. If you're more into wildlife and sports photography, you're generally, a lot of the people are into burst mode, so you can get a lot more numbers out of the same battery. The other one of the other complaints that I've heard and I've seen a lot of YouTubers make is regarding the battery cover. So this thing flips open accidentally. Never happened to me, not even once in my usage over about 6 years with this camera. No problems, never gave an error. Love the other aspect is I love the dial, the buttons, they all work well, very well designed, and the customization, the customized buttons, U1, U2, U3, they're very handy. I would advise every new photographer, if they're on the Nikon system, learn to customize the settings, the buttons. It can save you a lot of time, different situations. So that helps. Maybe you're jumping from portrait photography to low light or landscape photography. So for instance, no matter what mode I am in, but if I'm doing my corporate headshots for the clients, I've saved the settings under U1. So very fast, quick and easy. So once again, I love the dial. Now the most important part, coming towards the problems, the reasons why I am shifting over after 6 years. Autofocusing on this camera has been a big problem. with a lot of people, and YouTube videos are full of it. Is that a problem for a real photographer? No. You learn to live with it. You learn the inherent weaknesses of the system, and then you make work around. You learn how to work with the system, with its flaws, and you learn how to overcome those problems as well. So it took me a good few months to actually learn the pros and cons of the autofocusing, why the 3D tracking. Well, back then when it came out, the iFocus was not even there. It came out and later as part of the firmware update. I think it was more than a year and a half ago when those updates actually came out. So in low light and continuous focusing, the autofocus is not great. It takes more time. Even going back 10 years, some of my older cameras that I used, even crop sensor DSLR cameras, Nikon D7 I did not have that kind of a focusing problem. In fact, I got most of the shots right. Of course, the image quality was not as great as a mirrorless today, the Z7, but the focusing problem, it wasn't there. Going back to one of the first LCD digital cameras that I used with Canon, never had that kind of a problem. I've used Sony digital cameras as well. Love all of them. They all have their own pros and cons. But Nikon over the year for landscape photography, when I started with landscape photography, I just loved the colors that came out of Nikon, the way the camera was designed. And yes, so the focusing is, I would say, a major problem that was inherent in the system, which I would say Nikon came halfway through fixing that with the help of major firmware updates, which Nikon, I would have to give them applause on it, that they have worked hard, and they have they always come up with strong firmware updates, unlike some of the other brands. As a subcategory to the first problem of low light and continuous autofocusing would be the eye detection autofocus. It's a hit and miss. If you're in low light condition or if you're at a distance, it's not as amazing as let's say a Canon R5. No way comparable. Even smaller, newer digital cameras. I have a Canon EOS R100 that I play around with sometimes for my son. I got it for my son. So even the autofocusing on that is, I believe, superior than this. I may be wrong, but it always gets the focus. I yet have to miss a shot on it. So with these ones, every now and then, especially if I'm going into burst mode, I would lose a lot of the shots because of the focus. Birds in flight, for instance, was a problem till I actually figured out a workaround that I need to use a different focusing mode for it, like the wide area feature. So that helps. So over the years, I've come to understand the system and work around it. Learning the system of the autofocusing itself, of how it works, what to do in certain conditions and what not to do in certain conditions, actually help you as a photographer in adjusting the autofocusing and making it work for you. Is it a wastage of time? that depends upon you. Now at this level, when I'm doing a lot of events, when I'm doing a lot of corporate headshots, time is of much essence to me. So I need a far superior system which has a faster frame rate in terms of clicking, and which nails down on the autofocusing. So some of the other problems or complaints that you may say, which are I would say a lack of feature than complaining about the camera itself, is the tilting of the screen, not going sideways, just up and down. Well, when I started, I was doing landscape photography anyway, so this was not a problem. But even with like events and headshots, I don't believe it's a problem. It's their way of making the screens work. The screen quality is amazing. Would I like to have a tilting screen which moves on the right and the left? Of course. As a consumer, I want everything. I'm paying for it. So it would be nice to have it, but it isn't there. Did it stop me from taking pictures? Nope. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. The other limitation, single card slot. So it does have one memory card slot. XQD cards, my God, they were so expensive, and they are expensive even today. Thank God for Nikon, they came out with a firmware update that we can use the CF Express cards. So I've started using them, but I remember when Z7 came out with a single memory card, and me coming from a crop sensor DSLR body, even the D70-100 had two card slots. So I was really hesitant and reluctant with regards to having a one memory card slot, but never once it failed. Never once. I've done so many events with it. Extreme weather conditions. I've traveled the world around with the camera, and not even once I've had the problem with it because of just having a one memory card slot. Kudos to Nikon for achieving that. Was I stressed about it? Well, every single time I go into an event, it's still stressful. What if it stops working? What if something goes wrong with the memory card? So that's one of the other reasons it's not the camera, I would say. It's more of a peace of mind for me. I'd rather have a camera with two memory cards. Well, I didn't complain about it for the first 6 years, and all of a sudden I'm complaining about it. No, it's like it just gives me more peace of mind as I'm doing more and more events. It's more about client satisfaction and having that backup. I don't want things to go sideways during work, because now it's a major workhorse for me. So I want something that would have two memory card slots. That's probably it with regards to the problems that I've encountered. Just to recap, the autofocusing, especially if you're into low light or eye autofocus or continuous shots. The battery life may not be amazing, but generally it takes you through an event in terms of photography. If you're doing video, then sure, but if you have a backup with another battery, you'll just do fine. In Canada, prox a new battery would cost you about $100. So always carry a battery, always keep the battery charged. With any mirrorless Z native system, you're limited with lenses. I believe Nikon is about to sign something up with Sigma for their lenses, and Tamron has already started coming up with some of their lenses for the Z mount system. So we'll see more lenses coming out for the Z mount. But with regards to the Z7, the camera is amazing, build quality is amazing, highly recommended for people who are really serious about photography, who are really enthusiasts or hobbyists, or are passionate about their work, or they just want to use it for their leisure. Probably it's an amazing camera, highly recommended. The only thing is, give it some time to learn about the autofocusing. There are tons of videos available on how to use the autofocusing system, and that will actually help you to adapt to the system very, very quickly for the autofocusing. If you can afford it, sure, go for the Z7 II or Z6 II, which have a better autofocusing system, because they have a dual XP6 processor, which is twice as fast, they say, as compared to the Z7 processor. And that helps with the autofocusing and the frames per second that you're going to be taking in continuous shots for wildlife photography or anything else. Great video capability, video quality. The video that comes right out of the device is amazing, and you won't be disappointed with the quality, that's for sure. So in the end, a great camera, and I am deciding between the 3 to 4 cameras that I've shortlisted my top picks. I may venture out into a Canon R5 or a Sony A7R5, or still debating between Nikon Z7 II or Z8. So that's gonna be a surprise for a near video, a topic for a near video. Let's see what I go with. But I wanted to talk about my really long-term review for the Nikon Z7 camera for anyone who really wants to know about the mirrorless system or the Nikon Z7 experience of someone who grew as a photographer. I was a hobbyist and I started doing this professionally over the years, and I've just come to love with the camera. The Nikon system is amazing. They've grown over the years. The competition is fierce, and they're bringing the prices down, which is good for all of us. Better options coming at different price points. So once again, thank you very much for your time, and I hope this video is actually helpful for some of you out there who want to make a decision with regards to whether they want to go with a Z7 or not. Amazing camera. I'm gonna miss it. Hopefully I love the new camera that I go into, and I'm gonna keep you guys updated on what I go with next. Thank you so much, and until next time, take care. Bye bye.